Hey guys, we are here at San Diego Comic Fest 2013, obviously in San Diego, California. This is the second year of this show, and it is put on by several of the original minds behind San Diego Comic Con, which obviously has grown to be the biggest convention around. And so this is much more of a science fiction based and comic based show. It doesn't have necessarily the same focus on things like TV or swag bags or things like that. But pretty neat thing to go back to kind of the more intimate setting of what Comic Con was when it started, and the idea that some of the same people that sat around and put together the idea to be what we've come to know as San Diego Comic Con are here and the minds behind the show. So I'm outside the hotel. I'm about to go on inside. I actually was kind of debating whether or not to make the almost 2-hour drive down, but they have had such strong work with their social media. Twitter's been awesome. It's been ideally what it should be at a place, which is that they've been able to answer questions and they helped facilitate. For me, it was about tickets and press passes and things like that, and just give me more info on the show, and they really enticed me with the way that they're working to bring people out to come down here. So I made the drive down to see what this is all about. And so even though I've got a crowded scheduled day because I got a bunch of things to do tonight, I made the drive down. I'm really excited to be here. So let's go inside, get our pass taken care of, and take a look at what we can find. are here wrapping up San Diego Comic Fest, so hopefully you enjoyed seeing a little bit of the floor. Really impressed with the show. It's a small show, and so I kind of knew that coming into it, but impressed with what it was, what they offered for the size of the show, between the programming, the amount of vendors, the cosplay, all of those little pieces. So it's a small show. I mean, obviously when you're going to these cons, you have to know what to expect in terms of the size, and so coming into this one, wasn't sure what to expect. Got here, was pleasantly surprised with how much they really worked to make it kind of a family-friendly atmosphere, and how much they worked to make it something fun for everyone and trying to find ways for people to plug in. Definitely has the feel, if you've been to kind of a sci-fi specific show, I'm not talking about like a Star Trek convention, but something specific to like the genre of literature of sci-fi, or something like a Gallifrey, where it's a fan-run show. It doesn't feel like a money grab. It definitely feels like something that people are putting a lot of hard work into, simply because they have a love for the creators involved and the genres themselves. And so it's always nice to be at a show like that, because you can tell that people, it's a real work of love, and it's not something that people are doing just for money. And not to say that there's anything wrong with cons that are just for the business side of it, because at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't mean that the show will necessarily be less fun for the attendees. But that being said, there are shows like this that you can tell just have a lot of heart to them. We had a really good experience with Stockton Con not too long ago, that had kind of that similar feel, with a lot of charity involved and things like that. And this was one where you can just tell this was really about people coming together more than selling a particular item or things like that. That being said, for our little wrap up here, our Under the Con, like we always do, I did want to highlight a couple items I picked up just to kind of give you a feel for the show. So one, got this vintage Flash Gordon figure here, and so you can see it was $10, and I think this is kind of emblematic of a lot of what I saw at the show. Is a lot of vintage toys, and a lot of them at good prices. Picked up a couple Mego figures, which are my greatest love when it comes to collecting. So a Mixoplick and a Batman, and combined they were $50, which is a really good price. One of the reasons I don't buy much in the way of Mego is because it's so ridiculously expensive, and so there was a few vendors there that had them. Even when you come to something like San Diego Comic-Con, as big as it is, for collectibles like that, there's not that many vendors there. So to see so many, I would say there's about 5 different booths here that had just that type of stuff, specifically what I like, and so that was really neat to see. Also a lot of just odds and end type things, like here's some party favors, some old Return of the Jedi blowouts, as they call them. Got those for $5, and that was kind of a neat thing. And then, of course, as you could expect, there was tons of comics, and so I hit some dollar bins and picked up some $3 comics and some $5 comics. I didn't make any huge purchases on that side, just a lot of between $1 and $5 ones to fill holes in the collection. But that being said, there was a lot of Golden Age stuff, obviously Bronze and Silver Age stuff, so people that were wanting to spend some big bucks on some nice comics, there's some great high grade ones, and really any key issue you could imagine from the last 50 or so years in comics was definitely there on display. So it's kind of neat for me, not that I was going to spend that kind of money on those, but almost as like a museum walkthrough too, so that was really nice. Draco's Tavern was really cool, the fact that they have kind of something specific to link to Larry Niven, who's their kind of guest of honor, and they really go all out to kind of theme it, and they had readings going on there, and food and drinks, and just really created a nice little environment of a place to kind of hang out and just unwind and enjoy the experience. It's the type of show that you could easily check in, you know, Thursday night and just do nothing but activities from morning to late into the night, past midnight really, each night, with their programming and their masquerade thing and stuff like that. So really cool to see so much programming packed into a small show. And the one big thing I wanted to highlight about is the fact that sometimes the downside of the smaller shows that are really run as a fan base is they also can become a little bit too exclusive and a little elitist. I know there's some shows we go to that are they have that group, and you feel like you're almost annoying them by being there, that you don't go to their book of the month club or something like that, and now they don't really want to hear. This was the furthest thing from that. This show, you really felt welcome from the second you got there. For myself, having the press pass, I mean, they had reached out to me, they gave me a tour of the show, broke everything down for me, where were things at, made sure I was in good shape. They communicated with me throughout the show. Obviously that was as press, but I didn't notice any difference in terms of people that weren't press in terms of the type of treatment. Even the vendors in the vendor room and the artist alley and all of that saw people bringing volunteers for the show, bringing their food into them to the table, so they didn't have to leave their booths unmanned and go off and get their own things. So they were taking orders and bringing them in. That's really cool customer service, and that would be a reason why as a vendor you might want to check this show out, is that type of thing. It may seem a small thing, but those little things make all the difference, and you can tell these small things of how we're treated become emblematic of maybe the entire con experience. If you've watched some of our reviews of videos of shows in the last few months, you know there's some shows we've went to where we've had kind of quite the opposite experience, where that customer service is real low. So for me, the thing I'm always looking most for when I go to cons is that kind of attendee fan experience, and really looking at the customer service side of things. It's not, to me, all about the glitz and the glamour and the movie studios and all that. All that's cool. Every show has its thing and a place to go, but I'm really looking more at how much the show is doing to create a good value for you as a fan, and making it an enjoyable weekend, and making it something that you'll want to come back to. And so I know for myself, I missed last year. It was their first show, and I kind of had thought about it, and I heard some good things about it, and I knew it was a smaller show, but you know, I was like, oh, do I make the 2-hour drive down to check it out? And I kind of debated. And so coming to this year, the week before, I was, you know, giving it a little bit more thought, and they were really great on Twitter and gave me a lot of info, and basically anything an attendee, a vendor, press, whatever seemed to need, they seemed really quick. They had a great bunch of volunteers, and everybody was really quick to jump up and kind of try and make the experience better for the fans. So I think you get a lot of value. It was $50 for a 3-day pass, so I mean, I think you get a ton of value to consider that each day is more than 12 hours worth of programming and things like that. Having people like IDW here, Larry Niven, Marv Wolfman, you know, some really great creators and creative forces were represented. So definitely a small show, but definitely a fun one. It really kind of gives you that feel for what you know, San Diego Comic-Con was when it first started, in terms of like, it's got that quality programming and those quality creators, but a very small, intimate environment. Even San Diego State University was here, and they're kind of doing a documentary about the origins of San Diego Comic-Con. It was kind of cool to see that they were here kind of looking at the roots of San Diego Comic-Con, which so many of us love, and coming to San Diego Comic Fest to do that and start that process. So I recommend the show highly. I think it's really worth checking out. Again, for us, for Gallifrey, the first year we went 1 day, then the next year we went 2 days, and now this year we're going for the whole weekend, and that's kind of how this one felt for me. We went 1 day this year, probably next year come back for maybe 2 days or more of the weekend, but I can definitely see us trying to free up time to partake in more of the activities and stuff, because I made this a rush trip, didn't have as much time for as many of the panels or conversations in Artist Alley as I would have liked, but really great first impression for me, and so I highly recommend checking it out. Definitely if you're in the San Diego area, you know, for me, I drove 2 hours, and I would do that again, so you kind of get my idea of what it's worth in terms of value. A lot of times people say, oh, should I go to the show? Well, I drive 2 hours, maybe hour, half hour, 45 minutes, but somewhere in that vicinity for it, and I think it's well worth it, and I wouldn't hesitate doing it again if the show was back in 2 months. So that kind of gives you my feeling on it. So hope you get a chance to check it out next year, and so signing off from San Diego Comic Fest 2013. I'll see you in line next time.